Tonight, we journey back more than 5,000 years to a land where a single river transformed endless desert into one of history's greatest civilizations. As the world grows quiet around you, let the timeless story of ancient Egypt gently carry you towards sleep. You are standing at the edge of a small wooden boat, gliding slowly along a wide, calm river as the sun begins to rise behind a distant line of golden cliffs. The air is warm even at this early hour, carrying with it the smell of river mud, reeds, and something faintly sweet, ripening dates from groves along the shore. You have traveled many days to reach this place, and now, finally, the land of Egypt opens before you like a long, unfolding dream. You are young, perhaps 16, sent by your family to live with a relative who works as an assistant to a scribe in one of the great cities along the river. You have never seen water like this, a river so wide and steady that it seems less like a natural thing and more like something eternal, something that has always been here and always will be. The boatman beside you, an older man with sun-weathered skin, notices you staring and smiles. "The river gives us everything," he says simply. "Without it, there is no Egypt. There is only desert." You look out at the banks on either side, and you begin to understand what he means. Just beyond the lush green fields of barley and flax that border the water, the land changes abruptly into pale, endless desert, stretching toward the horizon in every direction. It is a strange, striking boundary. Fertile life on one side, empty sand on the other, with almost no gradual transition between them. The river, you realize, is not simply a source of water. It is the very reason this civilization exists at all. As the boat continues downstream, you pass fields where farmers are already at work, bending low to tend rows of crops that grow astonishingly green against the surrounding sand. You pass small mud brick villages, their flat rooftops dotted with clay pots and drying laundry, children running along the riverbank waving at passing boats. You pass herds of cattle being led down to drink at the water's edge, and fishermen casting nets from smaller reed boats, their movements practiced and unhurried. Then, as the morning light strengthens and the mist begins to clear from the horizon, you see them for the first time. 3 great shapes rising from the desert plateau in the distance, their sides catching the early sun in a way that makes them seem almost to glow. You have heard of the pyramids your entire life, in stories told by travelers who passed through your village, but nothing could have prepared you for the sight of them in person. They do not look like anything built by human hands. They look like mountains that decided, somehow, to arrange themselves into perfect, deliberate shapes. They have stood since before my grandfather's grandfather was born, the boatman tells you, following your gaze. Some say the gods themselves helped raise them. Others say it was simply the will of a pharaoh who refused to accept that anything was impossible. You cannot look away from them as the boat continues its slow journey downriver, the great monuments growing larger, then smaller again as the current carries you past. You think about your family back home, about the letter tucked carefully into your satchel, introducing you to your relative and requesting that he teach you the craft of writing. You do not yet know how to read the strange, beautiful symbols that Egyptian scribes use. Pictures of birds, of eyes, of water, of tools, each one carrying meaning far beyond its simple appearance. You wonder if you will ever master something so complex, so foreign to everything you have known. The boat slows as you approach a bustling harbor, larger and busier than anything you have ever seen. Dozens of boats crowd the water's edge, loaded with grain, pottery, stone, and goods from every corner of the kingdom. Workers move in steady lines along the docks, carrying baskets on their shoulders, calling out to one another in rhythms that seem almost musical. Beyond the harbor, the city itself rises. Flat-roofed houses of sun-dried brick, larger buildings of pale stone, and in the distance, the unmistakable silhouette of a great temple, its towering gateway flanked by enormous statues that seem to watch over the entire city with calm, eternal patience. You step off the boat onto solid ground, your legs unsteady after days on the water, and you take a moment simply to breathe in the strange new world around you. The heat presses down gently, dry and constant. The smells of the city wash over you. Baking bread, incense drifting from a nearby temple, the mingled scents of livestock and river mud and human life crowded together in narrow streets. An old woman selling woven reed baskets glances at you and smiles, recognizing, perhaps, the ocular expression of someone seeing this land for the very first time. "New to the river?" she asks. You nod, still finding it difficult to form words amid the overwhelming newness of everything around you. She laughs warmly. "Egypt has a way of settling into your bones," she says. "Give it time. You will understand soon enough why we have never wanted to leave." You gather your satchel and begin walking toward the address written in your uncle's careful hand, passing through streets crowded with merchants, priests in white linen robes, laborers returning from the fields, and children weaving between the crowds with the easy confidence of those who have never known any other home. Above you, the sky stretches wide and cloudless, an impossibly deep blue that makes the golden stone and sand below seem to glow even brighter by contrast. You do not know yet, walking these unfamiliar streets on your very first day, just how ancient this land truly is. That pharaohs have ruled here for longer than almost any civilization in human memory, that the river beside you has watched empires rise and generations pass for thousands of years, that the pyramids you saw from the boat were already centuries old by the time distant, unrelated civilizations across the sea had even begun to take their first tentative shape. You find the doorway at last, a modest home near the edge of the temple district, and you knock, listening to footsteps approaching from within. Whatever lies ahead, the gods you will learn to honor, the pharaohs whose names will echo through your years here, the slow rhythms of a civilization built entirely around the patient, life-giving flow of a single great river. It all begins now, in this quiet moment, at this doorway, beneath this endless Egyptian sky. The door opens, a warm voice greets you, and your life along the Nile begins. Let your breathing slow now, drifting along the gentle current of the river, as ancient Egypt settles around you like the warm, golden light of its endless desert sun. 2. The river that gave birth to a civilization. You wake before dawn on your first morning in your new home, the sound of the city already stirring softly outside your window. Distant footsteps, the low murmur of early risers, somewhere the soft creak of a well being drawn. Your relative, a quiet and thoughtful man named Senmut, is already awake, sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, carefully preparing reed pens and a small palette of ink. He glances up and offers you a piece of flatbread and a bowl of dates. "Eat first," he says. "Today I will show you why we say the river is the mother of Egypt." You follow him out into the early morning light, the air still cool before the sun climbs fully into the sky, and he leads you down toward the water's edge. The Nile stretches wide and calm before you, its surface catching the pale gold of dawn, small fishing boats already drifting along its gentle current. "Every year," Senmut explains, gesturing toward the water, "the river rises. Not because of rain here. We see almost none, but because of rains falling far to the south, in distant lands most of us will never see. The water rises, spreads across the fields, and when it recedes, it leaves behind a rich, dark soil, perfect for growing everything we need. We call this time the inundation. Without it, Egypt would be nothing but sand." You watch as farmers along the bank begin their morning work, and Senmut explains the rhythm that governs their entire year. The flooding season, when the fields lie submerged and farmers repair tools and complete other work. The growing season, when crops of wheat, barley, and flax rise tall and green across the newly fertile land. And the harvest season, when the entire kingdom gathers its bounty before the cycle begins once more. This rhythm has repeated every year for longer than anyone can remember. Senmut tells you. It is why we believe the gods themselves watch over this river with special care. As you walk further along the bank, you notice tall wooden poles set into the water at intervals, marked with careful lines. Millimeters, Senmut explains. We measure the flood's height every year. Too little water and the harvest fails, and people go hungry. Too much, and it destroys villages and fields alike. The height of the flood, more than almost anything else, determines whether a year will bring prosperity or hardship. You think about this as you continue your walk, beginning to understand why the river occupies such a central place, not just in daily Egyptian life, but in Egyptian belief itself. Senmut points out a small shrine near the water's edge, dedicated to a god associated with the flood, where a priest carefully makes an offering of bread and beer, murmuring prayers of gratitude and hope for the coming season. We do not simply use the river, Senmut tells you. We honor it. We build our calendar around it. Our festivals celebrate its rhythms. Even our understanding of the afterlife borrows from its patterns. Just as the river dies each year in the dry season and returns to life with the flood, we believe that life itself can be renewed after death, given the proper rituals and care. You continue your walk into the fields beyond the city, and you watch farmers using simple wooden tools to work the rich black soil, oxen pulling plows through earth still slightly damp from the recent flood. Senmut explains the elaborate system of canals and basins that Egyptian engineers have developed over centuries, channeling the river's floodwater efficiently across the land, extending its life-giving reach far beyond the natural riverbank itself. This is why Egypt has remained strong and prosperous for so many centuries, Senmut says, watching the farmers at work. Other lands depend on unpredictable rainfall. We depend on something far more reliable. A river that has never, in all recorded memory, failed to return each year with its gift of water and fertile soil. You ask him about the desert stretching endlessly beyond the fertile riverbanks, and he nods thoughtfully. We call it the Red Land, and we call the fertile soil along the river the Black Land for its dark, rich color. The contrast between them is not simply geographic. It shapes how we understand the world itself. The Black Land represents life, order, the blessing of the gods. The Red Land represents chaos, danger, the unknown. Our entire civilization exists in the narrow, precious space between these two forces. As the sun climbs higher and the heat of the day begins to press more firmly against the land, Senmut leads you back toward the city, past workshops where craftsmen shape pottery from Nile clay, past markets where traders sell fish caught fresh from the river's waters, past a group of children playing near the bank, laughing as they splash in the shallows. That evening, sharing a simple meal of bread, onions, and grilled fish, Senmut tells you an old story. How, long ago, the god Osiris was said to have taught the Egyptian people how to farm the land, how to build with stone, how to live according to principles of order and justice. Every civilization needs its founding stories, he tells you, echoing something you sense he has told many young arrivals before you. Ours center on the river, on the gods who gave us its gifts, and on the pharaohs who maintain the balance between order and chaos that keeps this land prosperous. You fall asleep that night with the sound of the river drifting faintly through your window, and you find yourself thinking about everything Senmut has shown you. The fields, the canals, the careful measurements of the flood, the deep spiritual meaning woven into every practical aspect of Egyptian life. You begin to understand, even in these first days, that Egypt is not simply a kingdom built beside a river. It is a civilization shaped entirely by that river's rhythms, its generosity, and its occasional, terrifying unpredictability. Let the gentle sound of the Nile's current carry you now toward rest, as it has carried generations of Egyptians toward sleep beneath these same ancient stars, trusting, always, in the river's quiet, faithful return. 3. The first pharaohs and the unification of Egypt. Months pass as you settle into your new life, learning the careful strokes of hieroglyphic writing under Senmut's patient instruction, your fingers slowly growing more skilled with the reed pen. One evening, as the lamp flickers softly and the day's lessons draw to a close, you ask Senmut a question that has been forming in your mind for weeks. How did Egypt first come to be ruled by a single pharaoh? Senmut smiles, setting aside his own work, and settles more comfortably onto his mat. That, he says, is a story that stretches back further than almost anything else I can teach you. He explains that long before your lifetime, long before even his grandfather's grandfather's time, Egypt existed not as a single kingdom, but as two separate lands. Upper Egypt, stretching along the southern reaches of the river, and Lower Egypt, spreading across the wide, fertile delta where the Nile finally meets the sea. Each land had its own traditions, its own symbols, its own rulers, Senmut explains. Upper Egypt took the white crown as its symbol and the vulture goddess as its protector. Lower Egypt took the red crown and the cobra goddess. For generations, these two lands existed separately, sometimes trading peacefully, sometimes clashing in conflict. He tells you of a legendary king, Narmer, said to have united these two lands into a single kingdom for the first time, conquering Lower Egypt and combining the symbols of both regions into one, a double crown worn ever since by every pharaoh who has ruled the unified land. This moment, Senmut says, marks the true beginning of Egypt as we understand it today. One king, one crown, one land, guided by one divine ruler who bridges the gap between mortal governance and the will of the gods themselves. You ask him what it means, exactly, for a pharaoh to bridge that gap. Senmut considers the question carefully. We do not see our pharaoh as simply a powerful man, he explains. We see him as a living connection between our world and the divine, the earthly embodiment of the god Horus during his life, and destined to join Osiris, lord of the afterlife, when he dies. His responsibility is to maintain what we call Ma'at, the fundamental order, truth, and balance that holds the universe together. Every canal he orders built, every temple he commissions, every law he establishes exists to preserve this sacred balance. You think about this as you walk through the city in the days that follow, noticing details you had overlooked before. The careful symmetry of temple architecture, the precise, unchanging style in which pharaohs are depicted in relief carvings and paintings, always calm, always dignified, always positioned according to careful artistic conventions that Senmut tells you have remained largely unchanged for well over 1,000 years. Consistency matters deeply to us, Senmut explains during another evening lesson. Change, especially sudden change, threatens Ma'at. This is why our art, our religious practices, our fundamental beliefs about kingship have remained remarkably stable across so many centuries. We do not celebrate constant reinvention the way some other peoples might. We celebrate the careful, faithful preservation of what has always worked. You visit, during these early months, a small local temple where priests maintain daily rituals honoring both the gods and the current pharaoh's divine role. You watch as offerings of bread, beer, and incense are presented before a carved image, prayers murmured in careful, practiced tones, the entire ceremony following patterns that Senmut assures you have changed little across many generations of Egyptian history. You begin to understand, through these early months of learning, the deep interconnection between religion, governance, and daily life that defines Egyptian civilization. The pharaoh is not simply a political ruler in the way you might have understood kingship from stories told in your home village. He is understood as an essential piece of the cosmic order itself, his successful rule directly tied, in Egyptian belief, to the continued flooding of the Nile, the continued fertility of the land, the continued protection of Egypt from the chaos and danger represented by the surrounding desert and by hostile foreign peoples. Senmut tells you stories, too, of the various dynasties that have ruled Egypt across its long history. Families of pharaohs succeeding one another across generations, some periods marked by strong, stable central rule. others by fragmentation, when regional governors gained increasing independence and the unified kingdom that Narmer once established temporarily splintered into competing factions before, eventually being reunified once more by a new, ambitious ruling family. Egypt's history, Senmut explains, moves in cycles. Periods of strength and unity, followed sometimes by periods of weakness and division, followed eventually by reunification and renewed strength. We call the great periods of unified strength kingdoms, and the times between them intermediate periods. This pattern has repeated more than once across our long history, and each time, Egypt has ultimately found its way back to unity and prosperity. You ask him, during one particularly memorable evening, whether he worries about future instability, about whether the current period of stability and prosperity you have witnessed since your arrival might eventually give way to fragmentation once more. Senmut considers the question thoughtfully before answering. Every generation asks this question, he says, and every generation, so far, has found that Egypt endures. The river returns each year without fail. The pyramids still stand, built by pharaohs who died many centuries ago, yet their monuments remain, testament to achievements that outlast any single reign. I choose to trust that this pattern of endurance will continue, though I cannot promise you certainty about the future. No one can. You fall asleep that night reflecting on everything Senmut has taught you. The ancient unification of two separate lands into one kingdom, the sacred role of the pharaoh in maintaining cosmic balance, the long cycles of strength and fragmentation that have shaped Egyptian history across so many centuries. You begin to sense, even in these early months of your education, that you are learning about something far older and more deeply rooted than almost any other civilization you might have encountered in your travels. Let this sense of ancient continuity settle over you now, as Egypt itself has settled into its own patient, enduring rhythms across so many thousands of years, secure in the knowledge that the river will rise again, as it always has, when the proper season arrives. 4. Building the Great Pyramids. Senmut arranges several months into your education, a journey that he tells you will help you understand something words alone cannot fully convey. A visit to the Great Pyramids themselves, rising from the desert plateau just beyond the city where you now live. You set out early one morning, before the worst heat of the day arrives, traveling by donkey along a dusty path that gradually climbs from the fertile riverbank toward the pale, open desert beyond. As you draw closer, the pyramids grow larger with every passing moment, until finally, standing at their base, you find yourself utterly unable to comprehend their true scale. What appeared, from the river, as elegant, almost delicate shapes against the horizon, now reveals itself as an overwhelming mass of stone, each individual block larger than a grown man, stacked with such precision that you struggle to imagine how human hands could have accomplished such a thing. These were built for pharaohs who ruled many, many generations before either of us were born. Senmut tells you, his voice carrying a note of genuine reverence despite his familiarity with these monuments. The largest belonged to a pharaoh named Khufu. It remains, even now, the greatest structure ever built by human hands, and I doubt any future generation will ever surpass it. You ask him how such an achievement was possible, and Senmut, drawing on knowledge passed down through generations of scribes and priests, begins to explain. Contrary to what some foreign travelers might imagine, these were not built by masses of enslaved people suffering under the whip, at least not primarily. They were built largely by skilled laborers and farmers, working during the season when the Nile's flood covered the fields and agricultural work was impossible. The pharaoh provided food, housing, and payment for this labor. Many considered it an honor, a form of service to both their king and their gods. You walk closer to the base of the Great Pyramid, running your hand along the massive stone blocks, still warm from the desert sun. Senmut explains the remarkable logistics behind such a project. Enormous limestone blocks quarried from nearby cliffs, others transported by boat along the Nile from quarries much further away. Each block moved using sledges, ropes, and the coordinated labor of thousands of workers organized into careful, disciplined teams. Egyptian builders developed remarkable knowledge of mathematics and engineering, Senmut tells you. They calculated angles with extraordinary precision, aligned these structures carefully with the cardinal directions and with certain significant stars, and developed systems for organizing and feeding thousands of workers efficiently across years of continuous construction. He gestures towards smaller structures nearby, workers' villages where archaeologists and scribes of his generation have found evidence of bakeries, breweries, and medical care provided for the laborers who built these monuments. You ask him why the pharaohs invested such enormous resources into building these structures in the first place. Senmut settles onto a low stone, gesturing for you to join him in the pyramid's shadow, shielded briefly from the intense desert sun. The pharaoh's tomb, he explains, is not simply a burial place, the way you might understand a grave in your home village. It is a machine for eternal life. We believe that a portion of every person's spirit, which we call the Ka, requires a physical resting place connected to the body in order to continue existing after death. For a pharaoh, whose continued existence in the afterlife maintains cosmic balance even after his earthly reign ends, this resting place must be magnificent beyond anything else, secure enough to protect his body for eternity, and filled with everything his spirit might need in the world beyond. You think about this as you look up at the towering structure beside you, trying to imagine the scale of belief and dedication required to invest so many years, so many resources, so much human labor into preparing for a single individual's eternal afterlife. Do you believe this truly works? You ask Senmut carefully, unsure whether such a question might seem disrespectful. He considers it thoughtfully rather than taking offense. I believe in the power of Ma'at, of maintaining proper order and honoring what has always been honored. Whether every specific belief about the afterlife proves literally true, I cannot say with certainty. But I believe these monuments serve an important purpose regardless. They remind us of what human beings, working together with shared purpose and genuine skill, can accomplish. That alone seems worth honoring. You explore, over the following hours, the surrounding complex. Smaller pyramids built for royal family members, a great stone sphinx with the body of a lion, and what Senmut tells you is believed to be the face of a pharaoh, its expression calm and watchful, gazing eternally toward the rising sun. You learn about the careful rituals performed during a pharaoh's burial, the elaborate procession that would once have carried his mummified body toward its final resting place deep within the pyramid's protected chambers, sealed away from the outside world along with treasures, furniture, food, and countless objects believed necessary for his continued existence beyond death. As the afternoon light begins to soften and lengthen, casting long shadows across the desert sand, you and Senmut begin your return journey toward the city, and you find yourself looking back repeatedly at the great structures behind you, still catching the golden late-day light exactly as they have for so many centuries before your birth, and as, you sense, they likely will for many centuries after your own death. Every civilization wishes to leave something behind that outlasts it. Senmut reflects during your quiet journey home. Some leave stories, some leave laws. We Egyptians, it seems, have chosen to leave mountains of stone, carefully shaped and precisely aligned, standing as permanent testimony to everything we have believed and everything we have accomplished. You fall asleep that night with the image of the Great Pyramids still vivid in your mind, their massive silhouettes rising against the desert sky, and you find yourself, for the first time since your arrival in Egypt, beginning to truly understand the scale of ambition and belief that defines this remarkable civilization. Let that same sense of quiet, patient, monumental achievement settle over you now, as the pyramids themselves settle into another peaceful night beneath the same ancient desert stars. 5. Life inside an ancient Egyptian city. Your education with Senmut continues steadily across the following months, your hieroglyphic writing growing more confident, your understanding of Egyptian life and belief deepening with each passing season. On a warm afternoon, Senmut suggests that today's lesson happen not within his quiet study, but out among the busy streets of the city itself, so that you might observe firsthand the daily rhythms he has spent so many months describing to you in careful theoretical terms. You step outside into streets already bustling with midday activity, narrow pathways winding between mud brick homes, their walls painted white or pale ochre to reflect the intense desert heat. Small windows, set high in the walls, allow air to circulate while keeping the harsh sunlight largely at bay. You notice, as you walk, that many rooftops are flat, used, Senmut explains, for sleeping during the hottest nights, for drying grain and other foods, and for simply escaping the closeness of the narrow streets below. You pass a bakery, its owner pulling flat loaves of bread from a simple clay oven, the smell warm and comforting despite the day's growing heat. Nearby, a brewer works with practiced efficiency, preparing the beer that Senmut tells you forms an essential of nearly every Egyptian meal, consumed by farmers and pharaohs alike, though naturally of varying quality depending on one's wealth and status. Bread and beer, Senmut says with a small smile, form the foundation of Egyptian life, quite literally. Workers on royal building projects, including those who built the pyramids we visited, received rations of both as their primary payment. You could say all of Egypt runs on grain in one form or another. You continue through the market district, where the noise and color intensify considerably. Merchants call out prices for fish fresh from the Nile, for vegetables grown in the fertile fields beyond the city, for pottery shaped from river clay, for linen woven from the flax that grows so abundantly along the riverbanks. You notice traders offering goods from further afield as well. Turquoise and copper from mining expeditions to the eastern deserts, cedar wood carried by ship from distant lands to the north, exotic items that speak to trade networks extending well beyond Egypt's own borders. Senmut points out the careful social hierarchy visible even within this crowded marketplace. Officials and priests moving through the crowds in fine white linen, their positions marked by particular jewelry or ceremonial items. Craftsmen and merchants dressed more simply but clearly prosperous. Laborers and farmers in the plainest garments, their skin deeply tanned from years of outdoor work. Egypt values order in all things, he reminds you, including the visible order of social position. And yet, he adds, our society allows more movement between these positions than you might expect. A skilled scribe or craftsman, regardless of humble birth, can rise considerably through demonstrated ability and hard work. You visit, later in the afternoon, a small school attached to a local temple, where young boys sit in careful rows, practicing hieroglyphic writing on broken pieces of pottery and flakes of limestone, far cheaper than the papyrus reserved for more important documents. A stern instructor moves among them, correcting posture and technique, occasionally offering praise for particularly neat work. Scribes hold genuine respect in our society, Senmut tells you, watching this scene with evident approval. Writing well and calculating accurately opens doors to advancement that few other skills can match, even for those born to modest families. As evening approaches, you observe families gathering for the day's main meal, typically eaten in the cooler hours as the sun begins its descent. You are invited to share a simple meal with a family of moderate means living near Senmut's home. Bread, onions, dried fish, and a modest portion of beer, eaten together while seated on woven mats, the family's youngest children playing nearby with simple carved toys. The father of this household, a mid-level official involved in managing local grain storage, speaks with you about his work, explaining the careful record-keeping required to track harvests, ensure fair distribution during times of scarcity, and maintain the reserves that protect the kingdom during years when the Nile's flood proves less generous than hoped. Everything depends on careful counting and honest record-keeping, he tells you, echoing sentiments you have heard from Senmut many times already. A kingdom this large, feeding so many people, cannot function on guesswork alone. You think, Walking home through streets now, cooling as evening settles fully over the city, lamps beginning to flicker in windows and doorways, about the remarkable complexity you have witnessed today beneath what initially seemed, from a distance, like simple daily routine. Bakers and brewers, merchants and scribes, officials and farmers, priests and laborers. Each person playing their particular role within a vast, interconnected system that has sustained this civilization across so many centuries. Senmut, walking beside you in comfortable silence for much of the journey, finally speaks as you approach his home. "This," he says, gesturing broadly at the quiet city settling into evening around you, "is what I most wanted you to understand today. Egypt is not simply pharaohs and pyramids, however magnificent those achievements might be. Egypt is also this: ordinary people living ordinary lives, baking bread and raising children and counting grain, generation after generation, each contributing their own small to something far larger and more enduring than any single lifetime could encompass alone." You fall asleep that night with the gentle sounds of the settling city drifting through your window, reflecting on everything you observed throughout this long, illuminating day. The bakeries and breweries, the bustling markets, the careful social order, the quiet dignity of ordinary Egyptian life unfolding patiently along the banks of its eternal river. Let these gentle, ordinary rhythms of daily Egyptian life settle over you now, as the city rests quietly beneath the darkening desert sky, its people gathered safely within their homes, ready for whatever tomorrow's familiar routines might bring. 6. The gods of Egypt. As the seasons turn and your second year in Egypt begins, Senmut decides it is time to deepen your understanding of the complex spiritual world that shapes nearly every aspect of Egyptian life. One quiet evening, as lamplight flickers softly across his study, he begins to explain the vast, intricate family of gods and goddesses that Egyptians have honored across so many centuries. "You have already learned something of Osiris and Horus," he begins, "but our gods number in the hundreds, some worshipped throughout the entire kingdom, others honored primarily in particular cities or regions. Understanding them fully would take many lifetimes. But let me share with you the most essential among them, so that you might begin to understand how they shape our daily lives." He tells you first of Ra, the great sun god, who Egyptians believe travels across the sky each day in a magnificent boat, bringing light and life to the world, before journeying through the dangerous underworld each night, facing chaos and darkness, only to emerge triumphant each dawn, renewed and victorious. This daily journey, Senmut explains, mirrors so much of what we believe about existence itself. That light must constantly struggle against darkness, that renewal follows even the deepest night, that order requires constant, active maintenance rather than simply existing on its own. He speaks next of Osiris, god of the afterlife, and tells you the story you have heard fragments of before, but now in fuller detail. How Osiris once ruled as a wise and beloved king, how his jealous brother Set murdered him and scattered pieces of his body across the land, and how his devoted wife, Isis, through powerful magic and unwavering determination, gathered these pieces together and restored him to a new form of existence, no longer as a living king, but as ruler of the afterlife itself, offering hope to all Egyptians that death need not mean true ending, but rather transformation into a new form of existence. This is why our mummification practices matter so deeply, Senmut explains. We follow, in a sense, the pattern that Isis established for Osiris: careful preservation of the body, proper rituals, the hope of continued existence beyond death's apparent finality. You learn of Isis herself, revered for her powerful magic and fierce maternal devotion, having raised her son Horus in secret amid great danger before he grew strong enough to challenge his uncle Set and reclaim his father's rightful throne. You learn of Horus, the falcon-headed god whom every living pharaoh is believed to embody, his eyes said to represent the sun and moon, his ultimate victory over chaos representing the eternal triumph of proper order over disorder and danger. Senmut tells you, too, of Anubis, the jackal-headed god associated with mummification and the protection of the dead, believed to guide souls through the dangerous journey into the afterlife and to weigh their hearts against the feather of truth to determine whether they have lived according to Maat. This judgment, Senmut explains, his voice growing more solemn, determines everything. A heart heavier than the feather, weighed down by wrongdoing and dishonesty, faces destruction. A heart light and pure, in balance with truth and justice, earns passage into a blessed eternal existence in the field of reeds, a paradise reflecting the very best of earthly life along the Nile, but without hardship or suffering. You ask him about Thoth, whose ibis-headed image you have noticed frequently in temple carvings, and Senmut explains that this god governs wisdom, writing, and knowledge itself. Patron of scribes like yourself, credited with inventing hieroglyphic writing and maintaining the sacred records of judgment in the afterlife. Every time you practice your writing, Senmut tells you with a small smile, you honor Thoth, whether you consciously intend to or not. You learn, too, of Hathor, goddess of love, joy, music, and motherhood, often depicted with the gentle features of a cow, associated with celebration and the pleasures of life. Of Sobek, the crocodile god, feared and respected for his connection to the Nile's power and danger. Of Bastet, the cat goddess, protector of homes and families, beloved particularly by ordinary Egyptians for her gentler, more approachable nature compared to some of the more distant, powerful deities governing cosmic order. Every aspect of life, Senmut tells you, gesturing broadly, connects to some divine presence. The flood, the harvest, birth, death, writing, music, love, war. Nothing exists outside the concern and influence of our gods. This is why our temples matter so deeply, why our priests dedicate their entire lives to proper ritual and worship, why even our pharaoh's primary responsibility centers on maintaining right relationship between the human and divine worlds. You ask him, during a quiet pause in his teaching, whether he ever finds it difficult to hold so many gods, so many stories, so many rituals in proper balance within his own understanding. He considers the question thoughtfully before responding. I do not think of our gods as separate, competing forces requiring difficult balance, he explains. I think of them more as different aspects of a single, vast, interconnected reality. The sun's daily journey, the river's yearly flood, the mystery of death and possible renewal, all connected expressions of the same underlying truth about how the universe functions. Learning about each god individually helps me understand this larger unity more completely, rather than fragmenting my understanding into disconnected pieces. You think about this explanation as you prepare for sleep that night, considering how thoroughly this rich spiritual world shapes everything you have observed since your arrival in Egypt. The temples you have passed, the careful rituals you have witnessed, the profound importance placed on proper burial and preparation for the afterlife, even the fundamental structure of pharaonic authority itself, understood as a living embodiment of divine order maintained here on earth. Let these ancient stories of gods and goddesses, of daily struggles between order and chaos, of death transformed into renewed existence, settle gently over you now, as generations of Egyptians before you have found comfort and meaning in these same sacred stories beneath this same eternal desert sky. 7. Secrets of the Temples. Senmut arranges, during your third year of study, an opportunity that fills you with genuine excitement and no small amount of nervous anticipation. An invitation to accompany him into the outer courts of the great temple complex, where he occasionally performs scribal duties for the priesthood, offering you a rare glimpse into spaces that remain largely closed to ordinary Egyptians. You approach the temple early one morning, its massive stone gateway rising far above you, decorated with elaborate carved reliefs depicting the pharaoh making offerings to various gods, his figure rendered with the same careful, dignified conventions you have come to recognize throughout Egyptian art. 2 enormous stone statues flank the entrance, their calm, watchful expressions somehow both welcoming and intimidating simultaneously. Remember, Senmut tells you quietly as you approach, most Egyptians never see beyond these outer courts in their entire lifetimes. What we are about to witness represents a genuine privilege, granted only because of my particular scribal duties here. Observe carefully, but always with appropriate respect and humility. You pass through the great entrance into a wide, open courtyard, sunlight streaming down onto smooth stone paving, the air already carrying the faint scent of incense drifting from somewhere deeper within the complex. Priests move purposefully across the courtyard, their heads shaved and their white linen robes immaculate, engaged in the daily rhythms of temple maintenance and ritual that Senmut tells you continue, largely unchanged, every single day of the year. The temple, Senmut explains as you walk, is understood as the literal house of the god it honors. Everything that happens here, the daily offerings, the careful maintenance, the elaborate festivals, exists to properly care for and honor that divine presence, much as you might care for an honored guest within your own home, except this guest, we believe, genuinely resides here in some meaningful sense. You watch from a respectful distance as priests prepare the morning offerings. Fresh bread, jugs of beer and wine, cuts of meat, all arranged with meticulous care before being carried deeper into the temple's inner sanctuaries, spaces that even Senmut, despite his scribal duties, has never personally entered. Only the pharaoh himself, or high priests acting in his name, may enter the innermost sanctuary where the god's sacred image resides, Senmut explains. The rest of us serve in whatever capacity our particular roles allow, trusting that this careful, hierarchical system properly maintains the sacred balance our civilization depends upon. You move through several successive courtyards as you follow Senmut toward the administrative chambers where his scribal work takes place, and you notice how each space grows progressively smaller, darker, and more restricted than the one before. A deliberate architectural progression, Senmut explains, moving from the bright, open, relatively public outer courts toward the dark, mysterious, sacred inner sanctuary, mirroring the movement from ordinary earthly existence toward increasingly profound spiritual mystery. In the administrative chambers, you observe Senmut and his fellow scribes at their careful work, recording temple inventories, tracking donations of grain and livestock from surrounding estates dedicated to the temple's support, documenting the elaborate schedule of festivals and rituals that structure the religious calendar throughout the year. You begin to understand, watching this careful bureaucratic work, that temples function not merely as spiritual centers, but as significant economic institutions as well, controlling substantial land, employing considerable numbers of workers, and playing a crucial role in the kingdom's broader economic and administrative systems. Temples own vast estates throughout Egypt. Senmut explains during a quiet break in his work. Farmers work this land, a portion of the harvest supporting temple operations and priestly livelihoods, the remainder supporting the broader kingdom through taxation and redistribution during times of need. In this way, the temples serve practical economic functions alongside their spiritual ones, storing surplus grain that can sustain the population during years when the flood proves less generous than hoped. You accompany Senmut later that afternoon to witness a smaller ceremony taking place in one of the temple's outer courts. A purification ritual involving careful washing and the burning of incense, performed by junior priests preparing themselves before entering more sacred areas of the complex. You watch the careful, precise movements, the murmured prayers, the evident sincerity and dedication these priests bring to even this relatively minor preparatory ritual. Every gesture matters, Senmut tells you quietly. Every word must be spoken correctly, every offering prepared according to precise traditional methods. We believe that improper ritual can actually cause genuine harm, disrupting the delicate balance between our world and the divine realm. This is why priestly training takes so many years, why such careful attention accompanies even seemingly minor ceremonial details. As the day draws toward its close and you prepare to leave the temple complex alongside Senmut, You pause once more before the great entrance gateway, looking back at the massive stone structure, now catching the golden light of late afternoon. You think about everything you have witnessed today: the careful daily rituals, the elaborate administrative systems, the profound reverence with which every priest approaches their particular duties, however seemingly small. What you have seen today, Senmut tells you as you walk together back toward the city's more ordinary streets, represents only the smallest fraction of what happens within these walls across a single year, let alone across the many centuries this particular temple has stood here beside the river. Festivals celebrating the flood's arrival, elaborate processions carrying sacred images through the city streets, ceremonies marking the changing seasons and the pharaoh's continued divine authority. An entire rich, complex spiritual life unfolds within and around these walls, largely invisible to those who simply pass by these grand gateways in their ordinary daily business. You fall asleep that night, reflecting on the profound sense of mystery and sacred purpose you witnessed throughout the temple complex, understanding now, more fully than before, just how deeply religious devotion shapes not only Egypt's spiritual life, but its economic, administrative, and social structures as well, woven together so completely that separating the sacred from the practical within. Egyptian civilization seems, you realize, an almost impossible task. Let this sense of sacred mystery and careful, patient devotion settle over you now, as the great temple itself falls quiet for another night, its priests resting after another day of faithful service, its inner sanctuary holding its ancient secrets safely through the darkness until morning light returns once more. 8. The Valley of the Kings. Several years pass, carrying you further into adulthood and deeper into your understanding of Egyptian civilization as you continue your scribal training under Senmut's patient guidance. During this period, Senmut arranges for you to travel westward, across the river, to a remote desert valley where he tells you many of Egypt's greatest pharaohs have chosen to be buried in recent centuries, favoring hidden, carefully guarded tombs cut directly into the desert cliffs rather than the towering pyramids that marked earlier royal burials. You travel by boat across the Nile,